The 8th of February, 1902, Volume 4, Meanings of the Passion of Jesus. This morning on coming, my adorable Jesus shared with me part of his passion. Now, while I was in suffering, in order to cheer me, the Lord told me, "My daughter, the first meaning of the Passion contains glory, praise, honour, thanksgiving, reparation for the divinity. The second is the salvation of souls and all the graces which are needed to obtain this purpose. So if one participates in the pains of my Passion, her life contains these very meanings within itself. Not only this, but she takes the same form as my humanity. And since my humanity is united with the divinity, the soul who participates in my pains is also in contact with the divinity and can obtain whatever she wants. Even more, her pains are like keys to open the divine treasures. This for as long as she lives down here. And then a distinct glory is also reserved for her above the heavens, which is given to her by my humanity and divinity in such a way as to resemble my very light and glory, as well as a more special glory for the whole celestial court, which will be given to it through this soul, by means of that which I have communicated to her. In fact, the more the souls have become like me in the pains, the more light and glory will come out from within the divinity. And here is how the whole celestial court participates in this glory. May the Lord be always blessed, and may everything be for his glory and honour. End of the reading.
8th of February 1904, Volume 6. One of the qualities of Jesus is pain. For one who lives in of his most holy will, purgatory does not exist. I remember that another day, as I continued to feel in suffering, I saw the confessor praying, Our Lord, to touch the part where I was suffering, so as to have the suffering mitigate. And blessed Jesus told me, My daughter, your confessor wants me to touch you to alleviate your pains. But among my many qualities, I am also pain. And if I touch you, of decreasing, your pain could increase. In fact, the thing in which my humanity delighted the most was suffering, and it still delights in communicating it to those whom it loves. And it seemed that, in reality, he would touch me and make me feel more pain. So I added, My sweet God, as for myself, I want nothing but your most holy will. I do not look at whether I suffer or I enjoy. Your will is everything for me. And he added, And this is what I want. This is my design upon you, and this is enough for me and contents me. This is the greatest and most honourable worship a creature can render me, and that she owes me as her creator. And as the soul does so, it can be said that her mind lives and thinks in my mind. Her eyes being in mine, look through my eyes. Her mouth speaks through my mouth. Her heart loves through mine. Her hands operate within my own hands. Her feet walk within my feet. And I can say, You are my eye, my mouth, my heart, my hands, and my feet. And likewise the soul can say, Jesus Christ is my eye, my mouth, my heart, my hands, and my feet. Being in this union, not only of wills, but personal, when the soul dies, there is nothing left of her to be purged, and therefore purgatory cannot touch her, because purgatory touches those who live outside of me, whether completely or in part. End of reading.
The 8th of February, 1905, Volume 6. The characteristics of the children of God: love for the cross, love for the glory of God, and love for the glory of the Church. Continuing in my poor state of privation and of unspeakable bitterness, at the most he makes himself seen in silence. This morning he told me, "My daughter, the characteristics of my children are love for the cross, love for the glory of God, and love for the glory of the Church, to the point of laying down their lives. One who does not have these characteristics in vain calls himself my son. One who dares to say it is a liar and a traitor, who betrays God and himself. Take a look into yourself to see whether you have them." And he disappeared. End of the reading.
The 8th of February, 1911. Volume 10. Love renders Jesus happy. Luisa is the paradise of Jesus on earth. Continuing in my usual state, I spent about 6 days all immersed in the love of my blessed Jesus, to the point that at times I felt I could take no more, and I would say to Jesus, "Enough, enough. I can take no more." I felt as if I was in a bath of love that penetrated deep into the marrow of my bones. Now Jesus would speak to me of love and of how much he loved me, and now I would speak of love to him. The beautiful thing is that sometimes Jesus would not let himself be seen, and I, swimming in this bath of love, would feel the circle of my poor nature crack. I would lament to him, and he would whisper in my ear, "Love is I, and if you feel love, it is such that I am with you." Other times, as I would lament, he would say in my ear, "But all of a sudden, Luisa, you are my paradise on earth, and your love renders me happy." And I, "Jesus, my love, what are you saying? Do you not want to make fun of me? You are already happy because of yourself. Why do you say that you are happy because of me?" And he, "Listen to me carefully, my daughter, and you will comprehend what I am telling you. There is no created thing which does not receive life from my heart. All creatures are like many chords that come from my heart and have life from me. By necessity and naturally, everything they do is all reflected in my heart, be it even one movement. As a consequence, if they do evil, if they do not love me, they give me continuous bother. That chord resounds in my heart with sounds of displeasures, of bitterness, of sins, and forms in it such lugubrious words as to render me unhappy on the part of that chord, or life that comes from me. On the other hand, if it loves me and is all intent on contenting me, that chord gives me continuous pleasure, and forms festive and sweet sounds which harmonize with my own life. And on the part of that chord I enjoy so much as to be rendered happy and to enjoy my own paradise because of it. If you comprehend well all this, you will no longer say that I make fun of you. And here is what I would say about love, and what Jesus would say. I will say it with some nonsense, and maybe also disconnected, because the mind does not adapt itself completely to words.
The 8th of February, 1915, Volume 11. Oblivion of ourselves is needed. in order to occupy ourselves only with the salvation of others. The unity and the happiness of the three divine persons is in their will. Jesus wants to do the same with the one who does his will in everything. I continue very afflicted because of the ways my always adorable Jesus uses with me, but I am resigned to his most holy volition. If I lament with Jesus because of his privations and his silence, he says to me, "This is not the time to think about this. These are childish fusses, and are very weak souls who care about themselves and not about me, who think of what they feel rather than what they have to do. These souls reek of human to me, and I cannot trust them. From you I do not expect this. I want the heroism of the souls who, forgetting about themselves, care only about me and, united with me, occupy themselves with the salvation of my children, whom the devil tries to snatch from my arms with all his tricks. I want you to adapt yourself to the times, now sorrowful, now mournful, now tragic, and to pray and cry together with me for the blindness of creatures. Your life must disappear. Let my whole life permeate you. If you do this, I will feel in you the fragrance of my divinity, and I will trust you in these sad times, which are nothing less than preludes of chastisements. What will happen when things go further? Poor children, poor children. It seems that Jesus suffers so much that he remains speechless. He hides more deeply than inside the heart as to completely disappear. When I renew my laments because of my sorrowful state, and I call him over and over again, telling him, "Jesus, don't you hear about the tragedies that are happening? How is it possible that your merciful heart can bear so much torment in your children?" It seems that he barely moves in my interior, as if he didn't want to be heard. And I feel inside my breath another panting breath, like a rattle. It is the breath of Jesus, because I recognize its sweetness. But as it refreshes me completely, makes me feel deadly pains, because in that breath I feel the breath of all, especially of many lives dying in war. And Jesus suffers in an agonizing rattle. Other times it seems that he is in so much pain that he sends feeble moans, which would move the hardest hearts to pity. Then, as I was continuing my laments, this morning he came and said, "My daughter, the union of our wills is such that the volition of one cannot be distinguished from that of the other. It is this union of wills that forms the perfection of the three divine persons, because, as we are equal in the will, this uniformity brings also the uniformity of sanctity, wisdom, beauty, power, love, and of all the rest of our being. Therefore we reflect ourselves one to the other, and our satisfaction in looking at ourselves is so great as to render us fully happy. So each one is reflected in the other, and each one pours into the other all the qualities of our being, like many immense seas of different joys. If anything were dissimilar among us, our being could not be perfect or fully happy. Now, in creating man, we infused into him our image and likeness in order to overwhelm him with our happiness and to be reflected and delighted in him. But man broke the first link of connection, the will, between himself and the Creator, therefore losing the true happiness. Even more, all evil swooped down upon him. So we can neither reflect ourselves nor delight in him. We can do it only in that soul who does our will in everything. In her we enjoy the complete fruit of creation. Even those who have some virtues, who pray and attend the sacraments, do not allow us to be reflected in them, if they do not conform to our volition. because since their will is broken from ours, all things are in disorder and upside down. Ah, my daughter, only our will is acceptable, since it reorders, delights, and brings all goods with it. Therefore, do my will, always and in everything, and may my will be enough for you in every sanctity. And I, my love and my life, how can I conform to your will in regard to the many chastisements that you are sending? It takes too much to say fiat. Furthermore, how many times have you told me that if I did your will, you would do mine? And now, have you changed? And Jesus, I have not changed. It is the creature that has reached the point of becoming unbearable. Come closer and suckle from my mouth the offences the creatures send me. If you can swallow them, I will suspend the chastisements. I approached his mouth and suckled with avidity, to my greatest regret. I tried hard to swallow, but I couldn't. I suffocated. I returned to try hard again, but I couldn't. Then, with a tender voice, sobbing, Jesus told me, have you seen? You cannot swallow it. It is too disgusting, nauseating, and bitter. Spew it on the ground. It will fall upon creatures. So I spewed it, and Jesus too spewed it upon the earth from his mouth, saying, this is nothing yet. This is nothing yet. And he disappeared. End of the reading. The 8th of February 1921, Volume 12. While the world wants to cast Jesus away from the face of the earth, he is preparing an era of love, the era of his third fiat. This morning, after receiving communion, I heard in my interior my always lovable Jesus saying, "Oh, iniquitous world, you are doing everything you can to cast me away from the face of the earth, to banish me from society, from school, from conversations, from everything. You are plotting how to demolish temples and altars, how to destroy my church and kill my ministers, while I am preparing for you an era of love, the era of my third fiat. You will make your own way in order to banish me, and I will confuse you by means of love. I will follow you from behind, and I will come toward you from the front, so as to confuse you in love. And wherever you have banished me, I will raise my throne, and there I will reign more than before, but in an astonishing way, so much so that you yourself will fall at the foot of my throne, as though bound by the power of my love." Then he added, "Ah, my daughter, the creature rages more and more in evil. How many machinations of ruin they are preparing. They'll reach the point of exhausting evil itself. But while they are occupied with following their own way, I'll be occupied with making the fiat voluntas tua have its completion and fulfilment, and my will reign upon the earth, but in a completely new way. I will be occupied with preparing the era of the third fiat, in which my love will show off in a marvellous and unheard of way. Ah, yes, I want to confuse man completely in love. Therefore be attentive. I want you with me in preparing this celestial and divine era of love. We will lend a hand to each other and will work together." Then he drew near my mouth, and as he sent his omnipotent breath into it, I felt new life being infused in me, and he disappeared. End of the reading. The 8th of February 1924, Volume 16. What one must do in order to fulfil the office of living in the divine will, where little ones must be, and what they must do in it. I was fusing all of myself in the holy divine will, and in doing so, as the littlest of all, I placed myself in front of all generations, even before Adam and Eve were created, so that before they sinned, I could prepare before them the act of reparation to the divine majesty, since in the divine will there is no past and no future, but everything is present, and so that, being little, I could approach it in order to plead and do my little acts in it, to cover all the acts of creatures with his divine will, and therefore be able to bind to it the broken human will, make them one. Now, while I was doing this, my annihilation, my misery, and extreme littleness was such that I said to myself, instead of placing myself before everyone in the most holy will, I should rather put myself behind everyone, even behind the last man who will come, since I am the most abject and the most miserable of all, and the last place is suitable for me. Now, while I was doing this, my beloved Jesus came out from within my interior, and taking my hand told me, my little daughter, in my will the little ones must be before all, even more inside my womb. One who has to plead, repair, unite our will not only with hers, but with that of all, must be close to us, and so united to us as to receive all the reflections of the divinity in order to copy them within herself. She must have a thought which may belong to all, a word, a step, a work, a love, which may be of all and for all. And since our will enwraps everyone, may that thought of yours be of all in our will. May that work, that act, that love shine in every thought, word, and act of all generations, and by the power of our will, may they become antidotes, defenders, lovers, workers, and so on. If you knew with what love our celestial Father awaits you, and the joy, the contentment he feels in seeing you so little, bring the whole creation onto his lap to give him the return of all, he feels the glory, the joys, the amusements of the purpose of creation coming back to him. This is why it is necessary that you come before all, and after you have come forth, you will turn back within our will and go behind everyone. You will place them on your lap, and you'll bring them all into our womb. And in seeing them covered with your acts done in our will, we will welcome them with more love, and we will feel more disposed to bind our will with that of the creatures, that it may return to its full dominion. Therefore, courage. Little ones get lost within a crowd, and therefore it is necessary that you come forward in order to fulfil the mission of your office in our will. In our will, the little ones have no personal thoughts or belongings, but everything in common with the celestial Father. Therefore, just as all enjoy the sun, being inundated by its light, because it has been created by God for the good of all, in the same way, all benefit from the acts done by the little daughter of our will, which more than some dart through all, so that the sun of the eternal volition may rise again with that purpose for which generations were created. Therefore, do not get lost within the crowd of your miseries, of your objection, of self-reflections. Think only about your office of little one in our will, and be attentive on fulfilling your mission. End of the reading. The 8th of February, 1925, Volume 17. How each soul is a dwelling of the divine will, how it commands and rules. Instead, if it does not reign, the divine will becomes like a stranger. This morning, my sweet Jesus made himself seen in so much suffering that my poor soul felt consumed with compassion. He had all his limbs dislocated and wounds profound and so embittered that Jesus moaned and writhed for the bitterness of the pain. placed himself near me as though wanting to let me share in his pains. By only looking at him, I felt his pains being reflected in me. Jesus, all goodness, said to me, "My daughter, I cannot take it any more. Touch my embittered wounds so as to soothe them. Place your kiss of love upon them, so that your love may mitigate the spasm I feel. This state of mind so painful is the true portrait of the way in which my will finds itself in the midst of creatures. It is in their midst but as if separated, because since they do their will, not mine, mine remains as though dislocated and wounded by the creatures. Therefore, unite your will to mine and give a relief to my dislocation." I pressed him to myself and I kissed the wounds of his hands. Oh, how embittered they were because of many works, even holy, but which do not have their origin in the will of God, so as to soothe its pain. I squeezed them between my hands, and Jesus let me do everything, even more he wanted it. And so I did the same with the other wounds, to the extent that he remained with me for almost the whole morning. Finally, before leaving me, he told me, "My daughter, you soothed me. I feel my bones in place. But do you know who can soothe me and reunite my dislocated bones? One who lets my will reign within herself. When the soul puts her will aside, giving it not even one act of life, my will acts as master, as in the soul. It reigns, it commands, and it rules. It is as if it were in its own home, that is, in my celestial fatherland. So, being at home, I act as master. I dispose, I give of my own, because since this is my dwelling, I can place in it whatever I want, to make of it what I want, and I receive the greatest honour and glory that the creature can give me. On the other hand, one who wants to do her own will, she herself acts as the master. She disposes, she commands, and my will remains like a poor stranger, neglected, and at the occurrence even despised. I would want to give of my own, but I cannot, because the human will does not want to give me its place. Even in holy things it wants to be the leader, and I can place nothing from my own. How uncomfortable I feel in the soul who makes her own will reign. It happens as to a father who goes to visit one of his sons who's far away, or to a friend who goes to another friend. As he knocks, the door opens, but he is received with coldness. He is left there in the first room. No one prepares lunch for him or a bed to let him rest. He is neither allowed to share in the joys of that house, nor is he confided about its pains. What affront! What sorrow for this father or friend! If he brought treasures to please him, he does not feel like leaving anything. He goes away, pierced in the depth of his heart. Or the opposite occurs in a soul who lets my will reign within her. Imagine here a most beloved son who, upon hearing someone knocking, opens his door and sees his father, so longed for. He embraces him, kisses him, introduces him, and puts all the house in feast. He has the best meal prepared for him and the softest of beds. Even more, he gives him full lordship over the whole house and also over himself. Imagine the same with a friend toward a friend most beloved and greatly longed for. This is honour, love, subjection of a son toward his own father, and this is true affection and esteem of a passionate friend toward his best friend. In this case, all the treasures that the father has brought for his son, all the gifts that the friend has bought for his faithful friend will not go back, but will all be poured onto the lap of the son by the father, who was so graciously welcomed, and by the loving friend onto the lap of his dear friend, from whom, with so much affection, he was received and well treated. Such is my will. It comes from heaven in order to dwell within souls. Blessed is the soul who welcomes it and lets it reign, but miserable are the others, the many others, who do not want to welcome it and do not want it to reign in them, leaving it outside like a stranger and a destitute. But my will does not leave, even though they keep me like a stranger. I remain in their midst, waiting, in order to give them my goods, my graces, and my sanctity. End of the reading. The 8th of February 1931, Volume 28. Accusations, calumnies, condemnation. How for God wanting costs more than having the power. Effects of the wanted divine will and effects of the permissive divine will. Round of chastisements that he will do across all nations. It has been some time since I wrote because my poor heart swollen with intense bitterness to the point of engulfing me completely, and the gigantic and stormy waves of sorrow and profound humiliations did not have the strength to put on paper one page most sorrowful of my existence down here. In the heat of my sorrow, I repeated more than once the saying of our Lord. I looked for a consoler amid so many pains, and I did not find one, a friend who would speak a word in my defence, and there was none. Even more, the one who should have sustained me and given me a breath of courage, I felt as changed as if he were my cruelest enemy. Ah, yes, I can indeed repeat with my sweet Jesus. A pack of dogs surrounded me to tear me to pieces and devour me. I believe that the heavens have cried over my hard lot, as has my sweet Jesus cried with me many times. Oh, how true it is that only Jesus remains in sorrow and humiliation. The creatures can be around when everything smiles at us and brings us glory and honour, but when the setback happens, they flee and leave the poor victim alone and abandoned. Oh, my highest good Jesus, do not leave me alone in the period of so sorrowful of my life. Either you remain with me or you take me with you. I feel drowned, my strength fails me. Oh, please help me, oh Jesus. And then what torments me the most are the very struggles that I have to go through with my sweet Jesus. Because of the printing of the divine will, they accuse me at the Holy Office of things that I do not know, either where they stay or where they are, and that as far as from me as heaven from the earth. I've lived in bed for 46 years. It can be said that I am a poor one, buried alive. The earth I do not know, nor do I remember ever having any love or interest. My sweet Jesus has always watched over my heart and has kept it in full detachment. May the Lord be always thanked. They have also maligned at the Holy Office the coming of the priest, who comes to call me to obedience in the state of my suffering. Therefore, impositions, prohibitions. So here opens a struggle with my beloved Jesus. I pray him to free me or to do everything himself. That is, making me fall into pains and freeing me when he pleases. And Jesus, all goodness, was saying, my daughter, but do you think that I cannot do it? I can, but I do not want to. To me, wanting costs more than having the power. For me, the power is nothing. In one instant, I can make heaven and earth. In another instant, I can destroy it. So great is the strength of my power. But destroying an act of my will, neither do I want it, nor can I. I would destroy the order of the acts of my will that from eternity are established by the divinity. I would go against my wisdom, against my own designs, against my love. I would not act as God, but as man, who easily changes depending on whether things are to his liking or disliking and whether it pleases him. I am the immutable one, and I do not mutate in the designs and acts that my holy divine will has established to do, and with highest wisdom. And then I would not act as God. Not only because they wanted to accuse you of awful calumnies, making use of their authority and wicked perfidy to the point of getting to the holy office, because one gets there when an evil reaches the excess and no other authority can remedy it, and from this alone is seen their highest perfidy. I should change my designs and the ways that for so many years I have had over you? Oh, if you knew what sorrow they gave to my heart, such that unable to bear the torment, I am forced to strike all those who have contributed to such an awful accusation. And do not think that I will do it on this very day. In time and circumstance, my justice is arming its arm against them. No one, no one will be spared. The sorrow they gave me is too great. And I, my love, if you let me fall and do not help me to free myself, what shall I do? You do not want to change your ways that you've had over me, and if the authorities who want otherwise do not want to surrender to what you want, what shall I do? At least assure me that you take me to heaven, and you, I, and they will all remain content. Don't you see in what a maze they put me? I am the accused one, the condemned one, as if I had become the most wicked creature that exists upon earth, and a curse hangs over my poor existence. Jesus, Jesus, help me. Do not abandon me. Do not leave me alone. If all have been so barbarous as to leave me, you will not do this to me. Isn't it true, Jesus? And my sorrow was so great, I poured myself out, most bitter crying. Jesus, too, pouring himself out in crying, told me, "Good daughter, courage. You must know that my divine will acts in two ways, in the wanted way and in the permissive way. When it acts in the wanted way, those are designs that it accomplishes, sanctities that it forms, and the creatures who receives this wanted act of my will receives it equipped with light, with grace, with help. Nothing must be lacking to this fortunate creature in order to fulfil this act wanted by my will. On the other hand, when it acts in the permissive way, and this happens when the creatures, with the free willing of the will that they have, try to bind the hands of the Omnipotent One, as in this that they want from you, wanting to change things to their own way, and not as I, with so much love, and for the good of all, have disposed up to this day, they force me to act in a permissive way. And my permissive will, by justice and chastisement, is blinding, such that who knows where they will go to hurl themselves. Therefore, I will act with my permissive will. Since they do not want it in the way wanted by me, I will keep you suspended from the state of victim, and my just justice, not finding its prop, will pour itself out freely against the people. I'm doing the first round across all nations, so much so that very often I suspend you from the state of victim, because I see you too embittered because of me and because of what they want, and of so much perfidy that they have had against you. And in seeing you so embittered, I don't have the heart to cast you into your usual state of pains that you with so much love receive, and I with even greater love communicated to you. Therefore I move forward. But if you knew my sorrow, and in my sorrow I keep repeating, human ingratitude, how horrendous you are. And I am about to start the second round of chastisements against all nations, repeating earthquakes, mortalities, unforeseen phenomena, evils of every kind, such as to strike terror and fright. The chastisements will swoop down like thick fog over the people. Many will remain naked and starving. When I have completed the second round, I will do the third, and where the chastisements will rage more, there will be wars and revolutions be more fierce. My daughter, what I recommend to you? Patience. Oh, please do not give me the sorrow that your will be opposed to mine. Remember how many graces I have given you, How much love have I not had for you in order to win your will, to make it my own? If you want to make me content, assure me that you will never, never do your will. And while I assure Jesus that I never want to do my will, present circumstances are so many that I live with a continuous fear that poisons me continuously, that I might incur in the great disgrace of not doing always the divine will. Oh my God, what pain, what torment for my poor heart. Also, because of my inconstant state, as I spend days without falling into the state of sufferings, then I'm tortured that Jesus has left me, will no longer have the good of seeing him. And in my sorrow, I keep repeating, goodbye, O Jesus. We will no longer see each other. Everything is over. And I cry over he who was for me more than my own life. And I go through 2 or 3 days in these tortures. When I'm persuaded that I will no longer fall into that state of pain, then Jesus, all of a sudden, surprises me and makes me fall into sufferings, and then I am tortured. What shall I do in order to obey? So in one way or another I feel such sadness and bitterness that I myself do not know how I can continue to live. And in my sorrow I hope that my sweet Jesus will have pity on me and take his poor exiled one into his celestial fatherland. Only I pray you, O Jesus, to put an end to this storm. With your power, command that it be calmed, and giving light to those who have provoked it, may they know the evil they have done, and may they use it in order to sanctify themselves. End of the reading. There are no more readings today.